Hello friends. It's a little late. It's after midnight on January 2nd, but I don't feel very well and I can't sleep. My stomach is very incredibly upset. So I decided to show off for the first time in video my antique photograph purchases from the day. This morning, I went to the Hollowell Antique Mall and I picked up a few gems. This is where I almost always, I have bought most of my antique photographs from there and other antique items from there. I love the place. It has many sellers. The people who run the place are just lovely. And so I went there today, picked up a few photos that I love. So I'm going to tell you everything that I know about them, which is not much, but I will tell you what I do know. And save the rant about Malaga Island for another night and just summarize that and maybe save an explanation as to why I like to buy antique photographs for another night. Aside from the fact that I'm a photographer and the history of the work that the art that I like to do is a huge part of it, but that's a whole other story, maybe a whole other vlog. But I did take down some information and some notes, and now I'm going to try and make a concise and yet mildly informative video about the photos that I purchased today. I have 5. The first one is a ferrotype. That's a tin type metal. I'm trying to tap it. It doesn't show. If I had a magnet, that would have been the way to tell you. A lovely Victorian woman. Ferrotypes were produced largely from the 1860s to the 1870s. It's a popular sort of novelty work coming, into sort of fashion these days. I bought this one with no information except that it is a ferrotype. I love her hair. I think that would be pretty hip these days. Rocking it like a faux hawk, like a double faux hawk, right? Check that out. Those curls couldn't have been too easy. She went all out for her portrait sitting. She's got a nice fancy dress, lots of ruffles, very corseted. And I love that she's wearing earrings. Victorians wore tons of lovely things, but this is my first photo of a woman wearing earrings. Antique photo, obviously. So I had to grab it. For that reason alone, she's got lovely black earrings on. Look at those. They dangle on hooks, and they're quite lovely. She doesn't have a bloody nose. That's damage. So there's this lovely Victorian lady. On tin. Don't know who she is, where she came from. Just know that she looks, as severe as most Victorian women do in photographs. Like that. This photo says that it was produced in 1881. It's in excellent shape. It says Dimshi or Dunshi. I'll show you the back so you can see. This one says Dimshi Artists from 3 Tremont Row in Boston. I believe Tremont is still there. We can probably still find 3 Tremont Row if we went looking for it. This one was from the same place a year earlier. This could be a boy or a girl. I love that some of the more popular photographers have this information. That's just the seller. Don't worry about that. 1881. But it's in excellent shape. Even the front, there's very little damage to the front. Our young man who says 1880 looks like he got into something that got a little oily, a little foxing. So there's a little damage, but it's really not bad. Could be a boy, could be a girl. I'm thinking boy. Upwards around 5 years old, perhaps. I love these lovely curls. They're fancy. I bet you he didn't look like that every day. And what I like is that in 1880 he went by E.P. Dunshi. The photographer did. And then in 1881 it was, and you'll note, this is that's my title, artist photographer. Right? And then in 1881 it was Dunshee artist, but it's clearly the same place. Same rules. I paid 50 cents for these. And they're in, I think, really good shape. They're very sturdy. This one was only $2.50. I never pay very much for them. I think the most I've ever paid for an antique photo was $5. And next I have this lovely, lovely, lovely child that I bought. I love that face. The pudgy cheeks. The little curls. She's got these beads. She's like, I will tear this off and whip you with it. That child is not going to take any nonsense from anybody. I love it. I just love that impish little mischievous grin. So then, I bought it for that very reason. But then I noticed on the back, very pale, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, because I can barely see it in person. Looks like there's nothing there, right? But actually, it says LELIA Richards, L-E-L-I-A, LELIA Richards, or it could be an H, it could be Leha. Lelia sounds better. Richards, I'm not sure what the first name is. Let's see if we can get some light on that. No, see, I can't get that to show on the camera. And it says Malaga Island, Maine. And that is significant because during the eugenics movement, around 1911, this colony that had been there from about the Civil War, populated by some Irish fishermen and some, well, originally by a person of color a freed slave. He had bought his own freedom. He lived on one island and then set up his family on another island. Malaga Island was at the mouth of the Meadows River in Casco Bay. Well, what happened was some developers wanted to put in some resorts, and the people ferrying around on their boats didn't like looking at all of these poor fishermen who were of mixed race. And so the developers got together with the state, and these families were forcibly evicted, their homes taken down piece by piece, in an attempt to eradicate all evidence that these mixed-race families were there. It's a pretty disgusting story. The worst part is the resorts that were going to be put nearby were never built. The people were put into homes for the feeble-minded. Some of these lovely, paler children were adopted out, which is probably why this photo exists, to get this child adopted, or by the new family. Many of the mixed-race people were put into the Pineland Home for the feeble-minded. The cemetery was dug up, and they were reburied at the cemetery near the Pineland Home for the feeble-minded, which was in New Gloucester at the time. These people weren't feeble-minded, so that's disgusting too. I invite you to Google it. You can go to the Maine State Museum's website and look for more information. I actually have my own photos from the Maine State Museum's exhibit on Malaga Island. Obviously, you can't eradicate evidence of two colonized islands. They left evidence behind. It was dug up archaeologically. Governor, I think it was Baldacci, issued a formal apology to the descendants of the families that were from Malaga Island and issued a land ordinance, made it a land reserve in an attempt to make right what was done to these people. It's kind of hard to make reparations for what was done to them. But this actually says Malaga Island on the back. And whoever this is, LELIA, I believe, Richards, LELIA perhaps. I'm going to look up names that are close to that and see if we can get to a better match. Or maybe even, I'm going to look up the name and see what we can find out. But I do highly recommend a study on, if you're a history buff, if you're from Maine, you should learn about Malaga Island. And this may not be, my home may not be this child's ultimate destination. But I'll scan it first and do some restoration digitally, and we'll go from there. But depending on what I learn, this might go to a descendant. Maybe it'll go to the museum. I don't know. We'll see. Isn't she gorgeous, though? I love that face. And finally, a very sad photograph. Always I love to buy photos that have information on them. I believe this is a boy, because it says Sonny, S-O-N-N-Y. and that's typically a boy's nickname. It's dated December 1920 or January 1921. That's what it says on the back. A loving family member put that information down. But it was definitely that winter, the 1920-1921 winter. Lovely little spats on the boots. Lovely warm, looks like wool coat. Well cared for child, nourished, nice haircut, excellent winter clothes. But the sad part is it says on the back, that's a seller, ignore that. As you can see clearly, Sonny's last picture. So at some point, relatively recently after this photo was taken, Sonny passed away. And so I decided Sonny was coming home to live with me. And that's the 5 photos I bought today at the Hallowell Antique Mall, and the reasons I bought them, and the information I have on them. And I hope that this boring sort of subject matter was of interest to you. I'm just going to post it to Facebook and tag like the 3 people that liked the post about whether I should do this or not. And if anybody besides those 3 people have interest, that will be even better. But I apologize for looking sick. I am sick. I'm sick and ready for bed. And I think now I'm going to try and actually get myself to bed. And I hope that you have a great night and that this is a wonderful new year for you. Bye for now.